The two undefeated Japanese legends battled it out today, and it was everything I was anticipating. It was a little bit boring at times, but mate, we had it all. We had a chess match, we had a technical war, and we also had a physical punch out at certain times in the fight. We had everything. We even had a cut. The only thing we were missing was a knockdown or a knockout. But apart from that, this fight delivered. If you are a boxing proper hardcore fan, you would know exactly what I mean. This fight was so engaging. As a casual fan, you might have been a little bit like Crawford at times, like that, hard to keep your eyes awake, mostly because it was mentally draining at times. This fight was so like intense. If you could see their aura, I can't think of a better word than aura, but it was like their aura was so intense in there. You could see their ideas, what they were trying to do, and you can see that. And this fight was so easy to watch for me personally as a boxing analyst. I'm very analytical. So I'm watching this fight and I could see everything that they're trying to do, little nuances. And in a way, oh my God, his conditioning for this fight was immense. He was so sharp that at points I didn't know if Nakatani's reactions were too slow or if Inoue was just too fast. It was crazy. Or even that Nakatani was trying to maybe bring a little trap in at times to try and make in a way have like a false sense of security at times, because in a way started to get really comfortable in some of those mid rounds to be able to play about. There was even a time he was kind of, doing a little showboating, if you will, which is not really normal from in a way. He's a very stand up, straight, serious boxer. And in this fight, he was, but there was a time where you could see he was so in the zone that he looked like he wasn't in any fear. Like there was no wariness of anything. He felt really comfortable in there. And that's why I felt like, in a way, really won this fight convincingly, because from round one to about round eight, I would say it was all in a way. He was too fast. His punches were eye catching, and he was just doing everything. He was the aggressor as well. That in every point that you can think of, he was winning. He was, getting points for everything. For ring generalship, he was commanding the ring. He was hunting Nakatani down in there. His speed was blinding. It was too much for Nakatani to catch at times. And just everything, even his fundamentals were just too great. He wasn't even doing anything technically advanced. He kept it very simplistic, and I understand why he did it. Once you realize that Nakatani is a southpaw and that he's a guy that clearly gets his knockouts from countering a lot of people, because that's what he was doing in there. He was waiting, he was trying to make traps, but Inoue was just too well conditioned, too sharp, and could see those traps and was just snap, bam, comes back, hands in the right position. He knows when he's gonna go in. He gives Nakatani a little false sense of security, but Nakatani wasn't stupid, and you can see Nakatani was very, very wary of Inoue. Nakatani was very smart as well and knew his limits. He could see what Inoue was doing, so it looked like a lot of the rounds he was just there and he couldn't do anything. But it wasn't because he was lost or anything. He just it it didn't work for him. He knew that he wouldn't be superior. He wouldn't come out on top. And unfortunately, that just showed how undeniably superior Inoue was, especially in those first 8 rounds. Now, with that saying, I also think the aura really humbled Nakatani as well. The presence, the ring generalship of Inoue really humbled Nakatani. Nakatani was there, was giving Inoue a lot of respect. Because the thing was, when you saw him actually throw some punches at times, there were only single shots, but they would catch Inoue, and it almost made Inoue look a little stunned at points, because I don't think he was expecting Nakatani to throw a punch at those times. And a lot of times they weren't big shots, they didn't catch him cleanly, but they caught him off guard. And if Nakatani followed up with those shots, he could have really given something for Inoue to think about. But there were far few in between, and there were only single shots, and a lot of them Nakatani didn't want to put in too much in those, so they were like really half punches for me. They were not put in with any power, and they weren't really put in with a lot of conviction, because I think he just didn't want to let himself get exposed in any way because of how sharp Inoue was. And that is literally credit to Inoue. From his ring generalship to his conditioning, it was just a lot, and Nakatani was aware that he couldn't make mistakes. So he humbled himself a lot there. And I think that might have been a bit to his detriment, because no one is perfect. At the end of the day, we're human. But now we're in a way where he does really well, and it goes really well with his nickname, is he looks like a monster in a ring. He doesn't look human. He is a monster, basically. And I think he really made Nakatani aware that if you mess up in any way, you are going to get hurt. You're going to get caught, and I'm going to knock you out. Like, that's what it seemed like. And you could see there was times where Inoue looked like he was like, you know what, I just want to smash you up. Like, you could see it in the way he had this little impatientness in him at times. But in those first 8 rounds, he kept it clean. If you see the little steps he was making Nakatani miss by inches. We're talking little millimeters at points. It was just like that. You could even see the wind pushing on Inoue's skin. That's how, like, close those punches were, but that's how locked in he was. He knew exactly where those punches were going and how much he needed to move to make him miss. And that's what gave Inoue the confidence. You could see how much confidence was exuding out of Inoue. And I felt like he knew once that first round went, he went, yo, this is my night. Now, this is where it becomes more interesting. So, for the people that are a bit more casual, if you do want to just see the fun parts of this fight, I would say go from the end of round 8 to 9, 10, 11, 12. Those were fantastic, proper shootout fight rounds, yeah? And it was fantastic. It was amazing. It was really fun, and you could have seen one of them dropping the other in these 4 rounds. They really showed it. Inoue said, "Forget me being all like, I don't know, maybe he was a bit tired, because I realized I think after about round 7 his feet kind of slowed down a bit, and he was a bit more just sitting in the pocket, which he wasn't doing in the other rounds. He was more bouncing up and down, and he could just make a little adjustment and make him miss crazy. In the later rounds, he started to really weave a bit more. So you could see he was using his legs less. And I think that's probably just because he was getting a bit tired. He was on point the whole fight. So it's a given that that would happen. But in that 8th to 9th round, it shifted to the point that he was like, forget all of that. I want you to come with me in the middle of the ring, and let's go for a shootout. And mate, there was times where Nakatani was really showing what he could have done in the earlier rounds, what he could have given Inoue in problems. He could have given him some problems, because in a way, it just is, he, I feel like, has a bit of a weakness to southpaws, because the way he was getting caught was literally because of the angles. Mate, there was one like combination that Nakatani did, yeah, and I think it gave him so much confidence to carry on, to push on and become a bit more aggressive in the fight, because before it he wasn't doing much. It was single shots, barely any combinations, and not enough sitting on the punches, not confident enough to really let go. But once he put it, it's a beautiful and a very highly advanced southpaw like combination to do to a right hander, where you kind of like make them miss with their jab, but you don't go what they usually do. They would go on the outside and come in like that. He went inside, which is very more dangerous, but it can really be like, it can be dangerous for you, but it could also be very, very good for you as well, and it can make it more dangerous for the opponent. He caught him with a inside uppercut, and then backhand, and then like finished off with the lead hand again. And it was beautiful, and it really caught Inoue off guard. I feel like he really landed it crisp and clean, and you could see he noticed. He was like, oh my God, I can land on this guy. And then after that, you see him really going in. But the problem was, in a way, in these, he thrives on these types of challenges. He doesn't care if he gets hit. He will take a punch to land his. And he's like, yo, let's see if you really got it. If any of you have watched Hajime Ippo, he was moving like Sendo, bruv. He was like a tiger in a way. He was just like, yeah, come on. Bam, bam. He took some punches, came back, wham, wham. And I don't know what it is, but every punch that Inoue throws is just so impactful. So there was times he was getting out punched. He was getting like, the punches were going like for Nakatani. The angles and everything were favoring Nakatani, but Inoue would just carry on going, and he would just finish off the combination or finish off that transaction on the upper hand. It was crazy, and he just doesn't give up. And when he gets into those modes where he's having a scrap with someone, it's a battle of attrition, and Inoue never loses. He never gives up. And I think at one point it just got to the point where they were both landing clean shots to each other, and I think Nakatani felt it and said, no, if I keep taking these shots, I'm gonna drop. Even though he was landing clean, and the same thing could be said for Inoue, Inoue was willing to take the risk. You could see it in the way he was so nonchalant about taking shots, because he was taking some decent shots at points, and he didn't mind. Shook it off, doing that with his head, getting those creaks out of his neck, and was like, let's go again. And it was just like, raw, man. Battle of attrition, Inoue will win all the time. He's a generational talent. Nakatani, I give him all the credit because he is a great fighter, but there's just something about Inoue that makes him a cut above the rest. There won't be anyone like him for a very long time, and he is Japan's best at this point. In this era, he is Japan's best fighter by far. And Nakatani gave him a great fight, but Inoue was just too much. And every time they got anywhere close in, like, a close quarter battle, Inoue would just push on, push on, push on till he just suffocated Nakatani, and Nakatani had to start running. It was like in the 12th round, I think it was, yeah. They were really scrapping against each other. One person hit a good shot, and then Inoue will come back with another shot. Nakatani will come with a shot. Then Inoue will come with 3 shots, and then Nakatani will go, nah, I don't want any more. And he will start moving. He will start trying to dodge and run away. And it just showed who the real victor was. You knew by those type of displays in those last 4 rounds who was the clear victor and who won, who's the more dominant guy. And in a way, in every sense, was just more dominant. And yeah, man, this fight was incredible. I enjoyed it a lot. As a boxing purist, it was something I enjoy watching. So much to analyze in this fight. And then there was even the enjoyment side for the casuals. And obviously, I love seeing a proper shoot at scrap. Yeah, that came at the end of the fight. Best time to have it as well, because you're gonna be a bit less, like, I don't know, like less sharp. So you're gonna take some punches. You're gonna slow it down for everyone, and not all the punches are gonna miss. They're actually gonna land. So it's better in the later rounds to have those type of scraps to really see if one or the other is gonna get a proper knockout. And it really delivered. The only thing, of course, no one got knocked out or knocked down, but it was nevertheless still a great fight with great shots, great clips here and there of, mate, I've already seen some highlights out there just showing them both making each other miss at times. It was a real chess match, and it had a real scrap to it as well in those last 4 rounds. And then even a bit of blood and grit. Nakatani took a bit of a unfortunate clash of heads, and it was a mad cut in his head. Thankfully, it didn't go into his eyes. But yeah, man, it had that grit in there as well. It had everything that you would want in a classic fight. And yeah, this this fight, if you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. If you're a boxing purist, you'll love it even more. And a casual, this is just what you're looking at when this is what you expect when you see an elite fighter go up against another elite fighter. And in those last 4 rounds in particular, two proper knockout artists, and how they're very different as well. That's something that's very, very key that you'll notice if you watch. They're both very different types of fighters. They both are knockout artists, but in so different ways. And in this fight, it really shows. It really shows how different they are. And yeah, I just loved it. It was incredible. Like and subscribe, guys. I make videos daily. Comment in the comment section below what you thought of the fight, what your favorite part of the fight was, and what do you think of Naoya Inoue? Is he pound for pound #1? And yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys. I'm out for this one. Peace.